In this video lesson, we'll discuss the debt of the farmers and the struggle to organize the populist movement. Farmers will unite to address common problems that they're experiencing. The first of these was economic distress. They also continued to have problems with railroads, which continued to increase prices to transport grain, which took away from the farmers' profits. In order to push for these reforms, the farmers needed to organize. Oliver Hudson Kelley was the political voice for the farmers. In 1867, he started the Patrons of Husbandry, which was an organization for farmers, which became popularly known as the Grange. Its original purpose was to provide a special outlet and an educational forum for isolated farm families. By the 1870s, however, the Grange members spent most of their time and energy fighting the railroads. The Grange gave rise to other organizations such as the Farmers' Alliance, which were farmers, or those in sympathy with farming issues, who sent lecturers from town to town to educate people about agricultural and rural issues. Populism is a late 19th century political movement that demanded that people have a greater voice in government and wanted to advance the interests of farmers and laborers. The Populist Party will form in 1892, demanding reforms to lift the burden of debt from farmers and other workers and to give people a greater voice in government. The platform of the Populist Party surrounded economic reforms. They wanted to increase the money supply, which would produce a rise in prices. They wanted a graduated income tax, which will later become the 16th Amendment. They wanted a federal loan program to be available to help farmers that were dealing with debt. They also wanted the election of U.S. senators to be by popular vote, which will later become the 17th Amendment. They wanted a single term for the president and the vice president. They wanted a secret ballot to end voting fraud. They wanted an 8-hour workday and restrictions on immigration. And the populist programs will eventually become the platform of the Democratic Party. The Panic of 1893 will happen, and it will be very, very similar to the Panic of 1873 in its impact on the U.S. government and its people. Farmers were overextended with debts and loans. The railroads began to go bankrupt because of overextending themselves and because of corruption. The Federal Gold Reserve wore thin, resulting in people trading their paper money in for gold. This will result in a stock market crash, which will then lead to a depression. There will be a national conversation over whether the U.S. currency should be based on bimetallism or simply the gold standard. Bimetallism is a monetary system in which the government would give citizens either gold or silver in exchange for paper currency or checks. People who were in support of bimetallism were called silverites, and these people were mainly part of the Populist Party. The gold standard, on the other hand, was the backing of dollars only in gold. People who supported the gold standard were known as gold bugs, and they were mainly made up of Republicans who were led by President Cleveland. William Jennings Bryan will run for presidential elections in 1896. He will be the Democratic nominee, but he will also be backed by the Populist Party. He is well known for giving a very popular rallying speech called the Cross of Gold speech, in which he condemns the gold standard. William McKinley of Ohio was a Republican nominee for president. He supported the gold standard and will end up winning the 1896 elections. With McKinley's election, populism will collapse, burying the hopes of the farmers. Although the populism movement was not successful, it left some powerful legacies. But a message that the downtrodden could organize and have a political impact and an agenda of reforms was sent to the population of the United States. And many of these reforms will be enacted in the 20th century. We'll discuss more about the election of 1896 and the debate between bimetallism and the gold standard in our lessons in class.